going too fast. I'm taking 3.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your 2?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at a replay in the Amagi. But of course, today being Sunday, December 4th, it is our last day for submissions into the Tier 7 Most Damage Dealt contest. So be sure to get your screenshots in to me, thotgor1@gmail.com, before 12 a.m. midnight Atlantic Standard Time. That's the deadline to get your screenshot submitted. And keep in mind, if you have already submitted a screenshot for the contest, but you have since played a battle that you've gotten more damage in a Tier 7, you can submit that screenshot. I'll use the latest submission. I'll disregard any of the older submissions, and I'll only use the latest submission that you send to the email, thotgor1@gmail.com. And you have until midnight Atlantic Standard Time to submit those screenshots in a Tier 7 Most Damage Dealt. And of course, what you will be playing for is the first prize is going to get $80 worth of premium shop stuff. Whatever you want. That's how I normally run it. You tell me what you want from the premium shop, as long as it doesn't exceed the limit that has been set for the position you end up in. I'll go ahead and get that for you. Second place is $65 worth of stuff, and third place is $50 worth of stuff. So be sure to get your screenshots submitted to me, thotgor1@gmail.com. You have until midnight today, December 4th, Atlantic Standard Time, to get those screenshots submitted to me and your chance to win. Now, in the replay that we're taking a look at, you can see that we are in the Amagi and we're on Two Brothers. I don't play the Amagi very often. I did take it out and play it a lot during ranked battles. I found it very, very good. I mean, the Amagi is, at least I really enjoy the Amagi in terms of Tier 8 battleship. I know there's a lot to be said about the North Carolina and the Bismarck as well, but the Amagi was, I mean, Japanese battleships are really the only battleship, was the only battleship line I had grinded up. I only got as far as the Amagi because, more of a cruiser captain, so I was never really too concerned about getting battleships right away. Now, I have since gotten my Bismarck. Bismarck is amazing, obviously, right? So I am grinding up the German battleship line. But I do really enjoy the Amagi. What the Amagi has going for her is her guns. Her guns are pretty great. They are very accurate, which is fantastic. They don't have the best range. I think the range is around 19 kilometers, so you do have to get a little closer to fire, your first salvos, which just makes maneuvering that much more important. Maneuvering, though, isn't really a problem in the Amagi because you are fairly fast, and obviously, the Amagi, had she had been built, would have been a battle cruiser and not actually a battleship, which attributes to the Amagi speed. The Amagi does not have excellent armor. It's decent. It's decent armor, I can tell you that. I mean, definitely the turrets and whatnot, right? Good armor on those. But the side belt of armor isn't as good as you might expect or want. Yeah, she can be citadeled, but the same can be said about the North Carolina. The North Carolina broadside on is not very good. She can be citadeled very, very easily. We managed to take out the Miyoko there off in the distance, get our first blood and a devastating strike there with a few citadels, so not too shabby at all. You can see what I mean about the accuracy of the Amagi here. So we are pushing on the west side, right? I've got a number of my allies over here with me, and we're pushing fairly hard down here on the west. Over in the east, we have a token force over there, really just providing some sort of defense, although it does look like the eastern side is also making moves towards the cap, right? They are capping that D spot right now, but it's tentative because it's being contested and there are a number of enemies over there. But over here on the west, we should be alright to be able to just push in here, take this point, alleviate some of the pressure on the east, hopefully, because if we do push beyond the western point here, those eastern enemies will have to circle back and come back down to their southern point to defend it. Potentially, and that's what the hope is here anyway. We do see another enemy Amagi there off in the distance. We put a salvo into the player and managed to get some decent damage. Really doing a bunch of damage here so far, right? Basically opening battle, or opening stages here of the battle still, and we're already about, what is that, 35,000 damage, which isn't too bad at all. We see an enemy destroyer there off in the distance that gets destroyed, which is pretty great. We do also see a British cruiser here off in the distance, and again, these dirty British cruisers. Every time I'm in my British cruiser, no. Get a shot from a battleship, it's over, it's done, I lose. You like triple or quadruple citadel, and it's gone. I shoot at a British cruiser, over penetrates him. Just goes straight through, does like 1,000 damage. I just, maybe I'm just shooting at the wrong spot. I mean, maybe that's the problem here. It probably is, right? Generally, it's usually a problem with me. So we'll stick to that. We see an enemy Fuso there off in the distance, giving us a nice broadside, and it's something very important to keep in mind as well. Whenever you're in any ship, you do want to take your time with some of your shots and make sure that you're shooting at an enemy that is going to offer you the most possible damage, right? And I get 2 citadels there on the enemy Fuso, bring the Fuso down to very low health, and you can see my allies are now working away at the player. We still do have the enemy Amagi here in front of us as well. The Amagi is on fire though, right? We can see the Amagi is not going to be surviving too much longer. And we do also see an enemy Colorado off in the distance. Not very concerned about the enemy Colorado. I mean, as long as the player doesn't go bow on to me the entire time, talking about the Colorado here, we should be alright to just, do a bunch of damage. And in fact, there we go. We did a bunch more damage to that enemy Colorado. Now, we do have the western point here. We've got this A point, so we do need to push into the south, right? In the meantime, the enemies on the east side of the map have taken the eastern point. There they go. They just capped it. And so, all the more important now that we do get our force over here on the west, moving towards the southern point, right? We can see the enemy Fuso and enemy Colorado have had an unfortunate accident indeed. Both of them managed to collide there, so we're going to put some shots in, do a bit of damage to the Fuso, which is not too bad at all. We do see the enemy British cruiser still there as well, and our secondary battery is now engaging the British cruiser. On a tangent, talking about secondary batteries, Garrett in the clan had mentioned to me, and it's something that I never really thought of, but it's definitely worth considering, and I've been actually experimenting and being aware of what's going on. So, in the Amagi, I do have the Tier 6 ability the Tier 5 captain ability, manual control on secondary armament, right? Something you should consider, though, with the secondary armament is if you have this ability, the secondary battery will only fire at targets that you designate. They will not fire unless you designate the target, and the secondary battery will only fire from one side of the ship. So if you're in a ship like a Bismarck that has a really good range with its secondary battery, that can potentially be fairly limiting, because now you're not able to fire from both sides of your ships at multiple targets. You're only able to fire at one target at a time. Granted, you might be killing that one target faster than you would otherwise, but are you really dishing out that much damage? Well, apparently someone actually crunched the numbers on this, and it's about 10% more damage if you don't use the manual fire control on a ship that has a decent secondary battery range, which is interesting. Now, on my Bismarck, I do have the manual fire control, but I'm considering taking it off and just picking up another 4th level of captain ability potentially, right? So, something to keep in mind for you battleship captains out there, and I'd be curious to get your feedback on it as well, right? So, try it out, keep it in mind, let me know what you think. We get some more damage dealt there to the enemy Colorado in the distance, which is not too bad at all. We're sitting on about 112,000 damage so far, which is pretty decent. I don't have too many hit points remaining, but we can see there aren't too many allies remaining either, and I'm fairly confident that I'll be able to repair the current damage, bring myself back up to some sort of level here that might be a little mediocre and maybe even make it by. We see the Colorado has shots coming out on its way for me. I put out some final shots at the Colorado. Colorado goes down. One of my allies manages to finish the player off, so excellent. Good job there. Now we are capping the enemy southern point, but the enemy in the meantime has broken through and is capping our northern point. So you can see we're actually pretty much at cap parity now. Once we cap the southern point here, we'll still be at cap parity. So now it's a matter of what do we do, right? Oh, I was thinking, yes, I'll just shoot up the middle and see what's going on, but you can see we do have quite a bit of enemy aircraft in the area, and I really didn't want to shoot up the middle and get stuck, by these torpedo bombers or get stuck with dive bombers on me. I don't really have too many hit points to play around with at this point in time, so I'm really trying to be conscious of this. We can see I am coming under attack from the enemy aircraft carrier, right? We're going to take some more torpedoes here. We've already taken one, probably going to eat a second one, which is fairly tragic. There we go. But luckily, the torpedoes we're eating aren't causing flooding, and they aren't doing too much damage, which is pretty good because I really don't have the hit points, right, to play around with at this point in time. So I've decided I'm going to turn and we're going to go back to the west. I'm going to defend the western point because you can see the bulk of the enemy forces that are remaining. These are the people who went on the eastern side, took the eastern point, took the northern point, and now we're just going to make a big circle, go to the west. So I'm going to try go back to the west and cut them off. Take out as many of them as we possibly can and see what we can do about securing our victory. Now, victory is almost secured for us at this point in time, but still, people could start dying. We have some ships on fairly low health, so we still do need to play it fairly cautiously. So taking a look at some of the enemy ships that are starting to make their way into the western cap here, right? We do see that they're kind of just stringing in one by one, so this is fantastic, especially considering they may be giving me some broadside, so I might just be able to come around the corner here and just delete one of these players or, do some really significant damage. We see more enemy aircraft on the way in. We obviously know that the enemy aircraft carrier has been following the push up the east side and is now up in the north, keeping up with the battle, which is good for that player, not so great for us. We see the enemy Thotgor over there. We managed to get a few citadels on the player, take the player down. Excellent, and get ourselves a nice Confederate medal. Not too shabby. We did note an enemy player or an enemy ship as well coming down the middle channel, so we do want to keep this in mind. Luckily, we do have some enemy ships in the south, or some allied ships rather in the south, so they may be able to take care of it. I am much more concerned about these people making their way around to the western side, right? Even though there only are 3 enemy ships remaining, so we know exactly where these players are now. We still do want to get ourselves into a position to just take them down immediately, right? Because these people are on full health, and they do still have the enemy aircraft carrier, right? We can't forget about the enemy aircraft carrier. We see more torpedo bombers coming in, and these torpedo bombers, if the aircraft carrier is really, paying attention, could easily start taking down some of our ships. We have the Allied battleship here in front of us that's actually coming under attack from the torpedo bombers. Very low health, and that ally just went down. I still have the Allied Miyoko over here that is on very low health as well. This player can easily go down, so we do still want to be cautious. Enemy Atlanta and enemy Bayern. Now the Atlanta is very dangerous for obvious reasons. It's an Atlanta, and the Bayern is also very dangerous because the guns on the Bayern, right? Very good guns. This player will easily be able to citadel me, citadel any of my allies who are remaining. So we do want to be careful of this. Put some shots into the enemy Bayern and managed to do a bit of a damage there, which isn't too bad at all. Taking a look around at what enemy ships are doing, right, we can see the enemy aircraft carrier is basically trying to sail away as quick as possible, enemy Shuikaku. Again, my allies are now engaging these enemies as well, which is great. I was really more concerned about the enemy Atlanta, to be honest, rather than the Bayern, so I'm trying to get shots on the Atlanta, but if I don't have shots on the Atlanta, quickly switching over and putting them into the Bayern, right? Which is, again, trying to be careful about the targets that you're firing at, to see who is offering you the best possible angle to do the most possible damage. That's generally what I'm looking for when I am firing my guns in any of my ships. Maybe not so much in, even my destroyers, the gunboat destroyers. Trying to do that as well. We can see the enemy Bayern is on fire and is basically going to be going down here any second at all. There we go. One of my allies manages to burn him down, so that's fantastic. And now we just have the enemy Atlanta and the enemy Shuikaku remaining. Our points are such, though, that if we do manage to take down the enemy Atlanta, that should put us over the edge and get our victory. I managed to get myself a high caliber with one of those over penetrations, which isn't too bad, but I was really hoping to just delete the player, right? Get the player gone altogether. Sitting on about 136,000 damage at this point in time, so it's been a pretty great battle so far. Not too many complaints, and really really do once again enjoy the Amagi. The guns and the accuracy of the ship is amazing. The ship is fast. It plays to my my style of play, which really, I mean, all of the nation battleships that we have right now, starting at tier 8 onwards, they all can do over 30 knots, which is pretty much all I would want from, or well, in terms of speed is what I want from a battleship. Does it do over 30 knots, or at least 30 knots? If it does, then yeah, I can work with that. Anything below is it's not so great. But anyway. Atlanta there, off in the distance, we almost have the enemy Atlanta gone. We can see my allies are frantically firing in at the player, as am I, trying to get the kill and just trying to finish the player off. Because again, if we can kill the Atlanta, that should give us the victory. We do still see the Shuikaku there off in the distance. So again, we do want to be careful of the Shuikaku. It looks like the enemy planes are either recharging or they're just all gone. But still, we don't want to take too many chances. There we go. One of my allies manages to finish off the enemy Atlanta, and victory is ours. So we'll take a look at the final results here. They should be pretty decent. Earned myself a few things in this battle, which isn't too bad at all. We get 382,000 credits, 5,700 experience, 140,000 damage. I finished one of my tasks, which is fantastic. We got a number of citadels. We got the Confederate, First Blood, Devastating Strike, and a High Caliber, which is not too shabby at all. In terms of where I finished overall, I did finish top of the team with over 2,000 base experience, which is also very, very decent indeed. We'll take a look at some of the breakdown here of the some of the damage. Right, that enemy Fuso really did eat a lot of damage. I think it was a double citadel on that player, wasn't it? So 42,000 damage, not too bad at all on the one player. We can see at the end of the day, I do end up walking away with 221,000 credits, and again, the experience, the commander experience as well, which is always good. Coincidentally, the Izumo is going to be the next ship I'm going to purchase, because with these ARP missions, I'll be getting myself a bunch of port slots, and all I need is the credits to purchase the Izumo. I have the Izumo already locked, so I figured, what the hell, may as well go ahead and get that, because I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing next. I'm working on the British cruiser line and the German battleship line as well. It should probably be a little more vigor, or have a little more energy to do the British cruiser line, but I'm not really in too much of a rush. Anyway, enough rambling. Don't forget to submit your screenshots if you haven't already. Remember, the requirement, of course, is that you submit the screenshot. In the subject line, it would be helpful, when you send the email to thotgor1@gmail.com, it'd be helpful in the subject line if you just put Tier 7 Contest. Screenshot of the personal results screen, so that's the first screen that shows the victory. Looking for your Tier 7 most damage dealt. You'll get some rewards. You have until December 4th, which is today, midnight Atlantic Standard Time, to submit those screenshots. Anyway, folks, remember to leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. Love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.